got started.
I found myself here
With all this power,
almost like
I was a secretary.
entering a bright field.
we're being changed. It depends on how many of us are
I got
willing
started.
to
I found myself here
be new. I don't think it's ever going to be
almost like
I was a secretary.
entering a bright
We're
field.
each going to have our own.
Once again,
And it just became apparent.
I have a dream. And in this dream, I'm walking away from myself. Walking into a desert where the last of my former self would simply burn away, leaving nothing behind but pure energy. And then I am my breath. I wanted to see LA from another place where I wouldn't have to accept the unacceptable. A lot of things in my life were converging in this place. I had questions about myself and where I stood in the world. How much control I had over my life, how much control anyone has over their lives. Why would reasonably intelligent people choose to live in a place where the smog was so thick you couldn't see the hills in front of you? For a year, the TV news was running stories on the videotaped police beating of a black motorist. The tension everywhere was becoming more and more palpable. The city felt as if it were going to eat itself alive. I wanted to do something about it, but I didn't know what. I remember having gone to see one of those fortune tellers and read my tarot cards. She told me I would be living my life entirely differently in the coming year. She told me I'd be taking a trip overseas, and that I'd be meeting a lot of different people with different ideas, and they were all okay. She said I'd be traveling a lot, and people would be taking me into their homes. And I remember thinking, not me, sorry, you got the wrong guy. But the more I looked around Los Angeles and felt the tension there, the more I began to think, well, maybe that was me. And so I decided to go.
I found myself here through a set of circumstances that took place when I lived in a Findhorn foundation in Scotland. And I was asked by someone to go and see a seer up in the Highlands near Thurso, just to go with this American woman. And I wasn't into seers at all. And I said, well, it's a very foggy night. Okay, I'll come with you. So I went with her, and as I entered his little bossy, he said, it's you I want to see. And I said, no, it isn't, it's this lady. And he said, no, it's you. Did you know that you're going home? And I said, I am home, I'm living here in Scotland and it's fine. And he said, no, 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 the home of your heart. And I see water everywhere. And this meant absolutely nothing to me. And I thought, here we go. There's another seer with another story. Something to do with me. So I really just sat there and didn't take on board anything he said, really. And he went on about this water. He kept saying there's a lot of water. And I'm making myself understood. And I kept saying, sorry, no you don't. And he said, there's a gate with a sea on it. And I said, I'm terribly sorry. I don't know really what you're talking about. It's a place of pilgrimage, you know, the West Country, West. Oh, I said, you mean Glastonbury? No, it's not my sort of place at all. And he said, well, that's where you're going next. Well, that's where you have to be. And I said something like, in what role do I have to? Do you see me there? And he said, as the gatekeeper. And I responded by saying, do you mean the hag at the gate? And he said, yes. It means sort of either the ancient ones or the wise ones. So my husband was in Germany, I was living in the foundation, neither of us had any intention of leaving. He was teaching circle dance all over Germany, and everywhere he went, the legend of King Arthur was on the bedside table where he was staying, and all the women were wearing a symbol on their necks, and he didn't know what that meant. When he came home, I said, I have received a letter from Somerset asking if we would take on the custodianship of Chalice Well. And he said, I think you better answer it. I've discovered these women were all wearing a symbol of the Chalice Well cover in the Chalice Well garden. And it's not an accident. you know, we're being, something's shoving us along, and maybe we should follow it up.
Will had told me that Glastonbury, Findhorn, and Iona formed a triangle along ley lines or power points, and that anyone on a spiritual journey through Britain knew of those three places. Figuring I was being led, I thought, well, then I'll just have to follow that and go to those places. I thought if you could receive messages from seers and from tarot cards, you could certainly get messages through other people.
I think one of the important things about an awareness of messengers of light is that we not only celebrate them or delight in them poetically and in our prayers and in a sense of the beauty and goodness of creation, but that we see these messengers of God as being given in part to guide us through terrible darknesses. So I think that this is a significant aspect of the messengers of God, that we look for help quite intentionally, that we remember that we're not on our own.
What seemed to be happening was that with every step I took blindly, I was met by someone who would reassure me I was on the right track. I went down to London and met Roger Woolger, a therapist who'd written a book on past life regression. I was intrigued by the idea that circumstances in this life could be holdovers from other lives.
There was a woman who came to a workshop not long ago who worked as a nurse in a hospital, and she was very drawn to remember her past lives. Spontaneously, as a result of a very simple exercise, she found herself back in Central America as an Aztec priest, sacrificing children by the scores. And at some point in this priest's life, he became so sickened by the killing that he renounced the priesthood and tried to run away. He was caught by other members of the priesthood and dragged back and immediately sacrificed himself. The woman remembers having her heart torn out and dying in great agony and grief for everything that he, the priest, had done in that lifetime. When she left the body in her past life memory, she found herself in the realm of the spirits, and all around her were the spirits of the children that she'd killed as a priest on earth, or he had killed. He, the priest, was grief-stricken and horrified, and said, "What can I do? Can I ever be forgiven?" Now the spirit children in the other plane all chose to forgive him. And the woman realized that she had been carrying the guilt for that terrible killing into her current life by the way she was actually living her life. And having remembered her heart being torn out, she then said that, she had not told me this, but that 2 years previously she had had open heart surgery, and that somehow she was repeating the old death. She didn't die, of course. The other way in which she was trying to compensate for her unconscious guilt for the human sacrifice was that not only was she a nurse, but she worked almost entirely in the children's wards of this particular hospital.
I wondered what I might have done to lead me to this. I made it back to Glastonbury at the end of April, where I turned on the TV and saw Los Angeles in flames.